United States, I was on the Howard Stern show, and I have OCD, and part of it is I have these rituals and I can't touch things. And he thought it was funny to, the door was kind of dirty and nobody would open it for me, and I started to panic and go through anxiety, and I didn't know we were still broadcasting. I said, no, I see a psychiatrist, I have OCD, I'm medicated, I can't, this is not funny, this is not a joke. And they ended up opening the door for me, and then I realized that this got broadcast. And I went down onto the street, this is in Manhattan in New York, and I walked out into the street. And I thought, you know, how can I deal with this? You know, and how can I even look at anybody? And right when I walked into, you know, I was facing the traffic, somebody came up to me and said, are you Howie Mandel? And I wouldn't even make eye contact. I was so embarrassed. And I went, yeah. And they said, I just heard you on Howard Stern. And I went, oh my God, like, what do I do now? Do I just run into traffic and just end it here? And the next two words were the words that made my life different. And the guy just said into my ear, me too. If we take care of our mental health like our dental health, we'll be okay. We all talk about our dental health. Talk about my mental health? No, no, no. In corporate North America and Canada, you can say in the middle of the day, I gotta leave at 3, I gotta go see my dentist. But you look at the looks in the office when you say, you know what, I gotta go to a psychiatrist. You'll get looks, and that's what's wrong. And that's why we gotta talk about it. There's no stigma. I'm crazy, I'm mental, I'm talking about it.
See, friends, that's really what we want to do today. Our prayer, our hope is that we could just open up this conversation on a topic that is so relevant and deep and in some ways heavy, and we're glad that you're here to do that with us today. I'm so grateful for Mary Jacobs and Rolf Manti, who are going to be joining me as part of an interview with the Message Time. They're going to interview themselves in just a few moments. For now, just want to offer a few things to kind of set the groundwork for our conversation today. The first is here's a few key messages that we hope will come out of this conversation this morning. One is that we're in this together, that this really is a conversation for everyone. Stats say that 1 out of 5 people are impacted by mental health, have mental health issues. Now the truth is that's probably low, because how many people don't actually admit it? So that impacts so many of us. The other piece is that it impacts people of all ages and stages. We just know that. So this is a conversation for everyone. Number 2 is mental health challenges are not happening to you because you haven't been faithful enough. Sometimes people can feel that way, can think that way. We just want to say, God is not, this is about not being faithful enough. It's not that you haven't prayed enough. It's a complex issue. And just want to sort of name that out of the gates here. It's not because you haven't been faithful enough. Number 3, we believe that medical direction, including medication and prayer, can go together. And just want to name that. You'll hear that throughout our conversation here, that those two things can go well really together. We would encourage both of them, and we would really believe that God is at work in both of those. And I just want to name that. Number 4, this is a very complex subject, and everyone's situation may be different. So you may hear some things today that don't line up with your situation, and that's okay, because this is more complex than we can do in full today. We would love to talk to you if that's your situation afterwards. We have people available for that. And then finally, hope comes in many ways when it comes to mental health. We hope the message, you are not alone. Would you say that with me? You are not alone. We hope everybody hears that today. There's going to be people here this morning who barely made it here today. That when you woke up, you almost didn't get out of bed. And so that you would hear this message, you are not alone. That's a very strong message of hope that we hope everyone catches today. The other piece is that hope comes in a variety of different ways. The Christian gospel, the message is that Jesus gives us his Spirit, that we become his hope bearers in the world today. And so hopefully as we go from this conversation, this would be something that would continue, this hope, and even not only in some of us, but even through some of us. After the 9 o'clock service, there were people who were really excited to be doing some things out of this topic today, and hope comes through that. Imagine this. Imagine if half of us here today, probably somebody's going to ask us in the next 24 hours, 48 hours, what'd you do on the weekend? Imagine if even half of us said, I was at church, we talked about mental health. What conversations might that lead to? And hope works through all of those things. So we just really pray that hope will come in a whole bunch of ways just by opening up the conversation today. I want to take us into a couple scriptures before we move into our interview. Psalm 139 offers the very beautiful promises. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? Sometimes we're struggling with mental health. We can feel alone. If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. There's nowhere I can go from your presence. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me, because sometimes you feel like you're living in darkness with this stuff. Even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you, even when we're feeling like we're living in darkness. That light will come, that God is there, that you are not alone. You are not alone. And Psalm 13, it just really gets into the realness of this conversation, the realness of life. That's one of the great things with the Psalms. The psalmist is so real, just cries out to God in a very honest way. And so the psalmist says, how long, O Lord, will you forget about me forever? Sometimes we feel like that. How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? Sometimes that's how it feels. And then there's a turning point as the psalm comes to an end, Psalm 13. But even though this is my reality, I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. A God who can save us even out of the pits and depths of despair. And so I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me, even in the darkest of days. That piece of gratitude, that seeing God at work, giving blessings, even if in very simple ways, can be a huge asset to this conversation. And we can find hope in that. Just want to slide into our interview. And again, Mary and Rolf, so grateful for you for being a part of this conversation today. Really, really important stuff. Maybe just to start, Mary, just introduce yourself and a little bit on how you're connected even to this topic of mental health.
Okay. I was diagnosed with clinical depression in 2003. And I was crying at work all the time, so that's my big clue that I should go see the doctor. And so I got some medication, and I went to counseling, and I took a leave of absence. And then I made some changes in my life to reduce the stress, to make me feel better about how I was living my life. So I took a job closer to my home. I reduced my commuting time. I had more time with my young children. And so that made a big difference in my life. I work in social services, and I work with clients with mental health challenges, so I keep educating myself even now. And then I felt called to coordinate the group at the church, because I knew a lot of other people were feeling the same kind of feelings, and that I could help people to have a safe place to talk about their challenges. And so I've been doing that since 2011. I'm always looking for volunteers to help me out. You're all invited to attend if you like, but mental health is a passion for me.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. And this Tuesday evening, every other Tuesday, mood disorders group, it really is a godsend. We have a good friend who a year ago today, he was in the hospital, and he was in a very bad place. And one of the things that he did when he came out was he came to the Tuesday group, and it really was a godsend for him. And they're in Niagara Falls this weekend as a family. That's great, but he's here most Sundays with his family in a very different place. So thank you, Mary, for making a huge difference in people's lives through this Tuesday evening mood disorders group. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Rolf, just again, thank you for being here and part of this today, and just introduce yourself and how you're connected.
Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, so my experience with mental health comes through my wife, Donna. Donna suffered from major depression and anxiety for many years, and walked that journey with her. And 14 weeks ago, actually, to the day, Donna took her life. I'll pause every once in a while because I have to catch my breath. But Donna was a wonderful person. She She was a loving mother and a wife, and just a vibrant person who meant so much to us. And then, but over the years, with this terrible disease, just incrementally started taking little bits and pieces away from her, where she wasn't able to do the things that she wanted to do, and wasn't able to continue. She was very close to God, not always necessarily. To tell you the truth, there are times that she felt like God was a long ways away, and for those that are suffering, I'm sure that's happened to you as well. But the message today is of hope, and to let you know that God really and truly always is there, even though sometimes you don't think that He is. And so, a number of different circumstances it led to this choice. We can't understand it because it's not about rational thought, and it's not about all sorts of other things. There's just a complete absence of hope, whether it's real or perceived. For them, it's real. But Donna was a loving person right until the end, and we are so grateful for her. And my journey continues. I've committed myself to raising awareness around mental health and mental health issues. I'm not really sure right now what that all entails, to tell you the truth, but I know that God goes with me and goes with our family as we continue forward. We think it's the right thing to do, and I think you'll probably all agree.
Yeah.
And hopefully after this morning's service, I think
Yeah.
you'll be on board.
Yeah. Thank you, Rolf. You'll hear about some of those things that we're even thinking about as we move into this year around awareness. And want to also say that Rolf and Donna's family, some are here today, and just grateful that you're here. Rolf and Donna's daughter Jacqueline is here, and other two are watching online. I think one actually texted after the first service from Ireland, and
Caroline's in Ireland,
and said her dad did a good job, which he did. and just when you're talking about Donna, just sometimes. And I don't know anybody more faithful than Donna, as far as just rock solid, Jesus at the center of her life, but did struggle, as many of us do, with times of wondering where God was in the midst of this. I remember there was a time where I had given Donna a book, basically it was Mother Teresa's story, and because Mother Teresa, as you may know, struggled in her own life for a long time with where is God, and just felt separate from God, Mother Teresa. And so Donna took that book, and I know she read that, and was like, oh, that was really encouraging to her to know that, Mother Teresa experienced that as well. And then Donna, just the way she rolls, I think she probably had 50 other people read the book after that, because that's what Donna kind of did, to share that message that sometimes you feel distant from God, but God still is there, and all will be well. So this stigma idea, I love that video from Howie Mandel. Just, hey, we talk about dental health, why can't we talk about mental health? And it's so true. I know you both have wrestled with this one as well. So Mary, just why is it such a stigma, and how can we start trying to break through, even doing stuff like we're doing here today?
Yeah. I find that most people find it hard to talk about because they think that they're just not strong enough. We have a campaign, it's called Sick Not Weak. And people think if I was just stronger, if I was just this or that, it's like a character flaw that they personally, it's their fault. And so when really it's a physical illness, it's as physical as diabetes. The chemicals in your brain are not balanced properly. That's what causes a lot of this stuff. So we need to treat it like it's a physical illness. The other part is it's not visible. So people can't see your broken leg like they could, and they can't see depression necessarily. They might see it in some of the behaviors, but they have to realize that that's what it is they're seeing. So I think that's the other piece that makes it hard to talk about. But when you have these feelings, you're so ashamed, you're embarrassed, like, I must be the only one in the world who feels this way, and no one will understand if I speak to them about these crazy things going on in my head. But that's where I've been using my experiences to say to people when I meet my clients who might be showing what I think are some symptoms of depression or anxiety, I say, so, Like, if you thought you maybe were diabetic, would you go to the doctor and talk to him? And they're like, oh, of course I would go do that. I said, well, if you have feelings of depression, there are treatments for it. So you should go talk to your doctor. And that's a really important part of that journey, is getting to open up to the doctors. If it's not, your doctor's not so good, then, maybe you have to get him to do a referral for you. But I would just share that I was diagnosed too, so they would know that they weren't the only person with those kind of feelings. And so the other part is, people may have talked to somebody, but that person wasn't so helpful. And so they said, well, just go for a spa day. You'll be fine. Just get off the couch. Get yourself a job. You'll be fine. And if you could get off the couch, you probably would, but you can't. So these are things that aren't so helpful, so you need to kind of realize what are the things that are and what are the symptoms, so that you can be helpful to people. And that's why people won't talk about it, because they've had some bad experiences, right? So you have to find a safe place or a safe person that you can talk to. And that's the only way this is going to continue to open up.
Oh, thank you. Rolf, same question, just, how you wrestled with that stigma and how we can break through it.
Yeah, I've got to grab my notes here because I know. So let's imagine that, and I'll use a bit of an analogy here as I was thinking about today and about this question. And let's say that there were some societal views about people falling into a hole. That if you're walking along and for no reason, you have no clue, all of a sudden, bang, you've fallen into a hole. And that the societal thinking around that is, obviously it's you that's caused this. I mean, why didn't you see the hole? How come you didn't avoid it? It's your fault, that you fell into the hole. The second one is, well, you fell in the hole. You should be able to get out of it, right? You did this to yourself, pull yourself together and get out of the hole. And the other one is, do this as quickly as possible, because we need you to get on with your life and get on to the things that you were doing and the things that, the expectations that you have. And that's the stigma around mental wellness and about depression, is it's equated to this hole, about falling into this hole. When people have depression and have these mental illness, it's not something that they did. It's like Mary and I could be walking along together, side by side, and I fall into the hole, and she didn't, or somebody else could. And you could say, hey, why did you fall in the hole and I didn't fall in the hole? What's going on with you? So it's all the onus is on that individual saying, pull yourself together and get yourself out of the hole. But that's really and truly not really what's happened. It wasn't their fault. And that's a key point here to remember as you move forward, is it's not your fault. So imagine if you're the person that's in the hole, and these are the societal views about it, are you going to call for help? Likely not. Likely not, because that's what people think about. So what do? You say, you know what? I'll see if I can crawl out of this on my own, and hopefully nobody noticed. Right? I missed a day at work. Hopefully nobody noticed. I came home and I went to bed early. Hopefully nobody noticed. I'm just tired. When in actual fact, some depression has kicked in. So the first thing that we can do in this regard is, because people aren't going to come and talk to you if they're depressed because of those pressures, is to, but if you sense that, come up to somebody and say, listen, I sense that maybe that you're struggling a bit here. I want you to know, I understand it's not your fault. It's at that point in time that that person potentially could open up and share with you how they feel. Until that happens, it's not safe, just as Mary described. You need a safe place. Now imagine, of course, the next thing that has to happen is there has to be an assessment that takes place, and you generally need the assistance of professionals to do that. How did this hole develop? How can we put a barrier around it? How can we put a fence around it so you don't fall in again? You know, and what are the steps that we can take to help you understand? And remember, now the onus is not so much on that individual, but it's on other people that are around them, right? But let's go a little bit further, and let's say that doesn't happen. That's about catching things early, right? And quite often it doesn't happen because of this stigma, because people aren't out there looking for help. So let's say you keep falling into the hole. You have no idea why this happens. You've managed to pull yourself out. You're walking along and you keep falling into these holes over and over and over again. Imagine the despair and the anxiety and the frustration that those people must feel. I don't know why this is happening to me. I didn't do anything. People may think this is, you know, I've done something or I can get myself out of it, but I can't, right? Or maybe the hole's too deep. And you've come to the point where you can't, you're past the point where you can get yourself out of the hole, right? So what happens at that point is maybe somebody comes along and sees you in the hole. Or maybe somebody said, hey, I haven't seen so-and-so around for a while. I'll check in on them. And somebody shows up. Or somebody actually calls out and says, you know, I'm in some pretty rough shape here. I can't do this on my own. And they call out for help. In spite of the stigma. And when you get to that point, and you're that individual that's at the hole, and you're looking at that person that's in the hole, here's the things that you need to say to them. 1 is, I'm here. 2, we're getting you some help. And 3 is, I'm not leaving you until the help is here. You may not be able to help that individual. You may not be qualified. All you need to do is be able to talk to that person and to listen to that person. And to remember, again, to understand and say, I understand, it's not your fault, right? And then, and then when that help comes, it can come in various forms, right? Again, you need an assessment. How deep is that hole? Is the person injured? What is it that they need? What can they do? Because quite often what we'll say is, oh, I recognize you're depressed. I'll throw you a rope. Well, what if they can't? What if they can't hold on to that rope? What if one of their arms is broken and they can't pull themselves up? And then the thing is, well, I've thrown you a rope. Well, here's another rope. Here's another rope. Here's another rope. And people can't. That's the other thing that people need to understand is you're not always able to help yourself. Sometimes you can. Medication is a key part of it. You know, and having people around that understand, and I'm talking professional people, whether it's psychiatrists, maybe not so much, but psychologists and counselors and folks like that who can assist in that regard. And there comes a point in time, depending on how deep that hole is and what the condition is of that person, and sometimes help isn't always available. Sometimes it's hard. I'll be honest with you. You know, sometimes you just don't know where to turn. That person doesn't, and sometimes the people that are with her don't necessarily need to, and it takes some time. There are times, you know what, we need to climb into the hole. And sometimes you can't pick that person up and carry them up that ladder because you're not qualified, you're not educated, you're not trained. If you think of if somebody fell into a hole, what would we do? We'd call the firefighters, people that are trained, and they'd have all the equipment and get down there and so on and so forth. But when it comes to depression, we're not always like that. And sometimes you just have to crawl in that hole. You have to hold on to them and let them know it's okay. We'll wait for somebody to rescue us. And that's what depression and mental illness is. So looking ahead, what is it that we can do? The first thing is reach out. And reach out and say, listen, I know it's not your fault. You can talk. Become a safe person. Help them find assistance, people that can help them, people that are trained to do so. Don't just throw a rope and think I've done my part. And there are times you have to get into the hole. And it's not easy, but sometimes you need to do that.
Well, thank you. That what an amazing way, an analogy to think about this stigma. And I mean, isn't it true? Eh? Sometimes you don't see it coming. You don't see this hole. And
No,
there could be
you
people here
don't.
today who, how did I get here? But we're in that hole, and we need to call for help. But then the other piece is the best we can do, I hear you saying, is we can climb down into that hole with the people who we love. That actually is the gospel. God took on human form, came in Jesus Christ, entered into our world, got in the hole with us, if you will. The Apostle Paul writes, weep with those who weep, rejoice with those who rejoice. And I think he was supposed to add, get in the hole with those who are in the hole.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. That's amazing.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So, faith, prayer, scripture, a relationship with God, the power of Christ, of Jesus at work in our life, it's a piece of this conversation that we've experienced in really powerful ways. And so, Mary, just how that piece has been important to you and to your work around mental health.
So I have a relationship with God in all of my life, including managing my depression. God has led me to use my experience to help others. So I feel that, that's been an important part of my recovery, as well as being able to help others. When I was first diagnosed, I was part of a group here, a social group at the church that met as moms of new kids. They were getting older by then, but and I had made friends with a lot of these. And I had the support of my husband and my sisters at that time. So that's a really big piece, to have a support group that, can really understand you. And then I learned how to pray and find inspiration from reading the Bible or from other related readings, something just to get me through that day when you got those 3 kids running around in your house. And just to say that studies have shown that you have better outcomes from depression and anxiety when you have a spiritual life. And so the belief that God is present at all times in your life is a positive impact. So that's why it's really important to have that relationship.
Thanks, Mary. Yeah. And Rolf, I know this has been a huge part of your life and Donna's life, and just how faith, prayer, God has been in the mix here. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. As I said in their earlier services, I really, there's no good reason why I should even be here. If I look back on my life, about meeting Donna, and you fall in love, and you get married, and you plan to have a family, and that was God led us to each other. But we have 3 wonderful daughters, just amazing young women, and early on, we weren't even supposed to have kids. And God bless us, with these girls, and has walked with us this whole journey, in spite of, the ups and the downs and some of the difficulties. And they've turned into these amazing, young, strong, vibrant women that, I'm very, very proud of. And God walked with us on that journey, and we know that God will continue to walk with us even after Donna's passing. I'm not going to get into details, but there have been some amazing ways that God has showed up in our life that are just unbelievable. I was talking with Mark, and Mark's going to make a bit of a video once I get my head around it. And maybe there's going to be an opportunity for people to see that, how God shows up. But God continues to show up in our lives. And as I say, I have no right to be here. But really and truly, I think the most powerful story that could be shared is one that Tracy Nichols has. And we talked about if Tracy could come down and talk, and I'll just give a bit of an intro. So Donna and Tracy met at Brampton Civic Hospital. Both Donna and Tracy were there. This is in the mental health ward known as Gen B. And they were both at a very low point in their lives. And in spite of where Donna was, God was with her. And God gave her a nudge to go over and talk to Tracy. And I'll just let Tracy take over. Thanks for doing this, Tracy.
Thanks, Ralph. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tracy. Good morning. First of all, I want to thank God that I'm able to stand up here and actually tell you that I'm that 1 in 5 people out there. 4 years ago, I tried to kill myself. And I believe God saved me that day for a reason, and if that reason is to tell all of you my story, then I'm glad to do it. The stigma around mental health has been with me most of my life. It took me a year after I tried to kill myself to tell people that I suffered from depression and that I was in the hospital for 6 weeks because I tried to kill myself. But God led me to do that. Donna led me to God. And like I said, I thank God every day that I'm here to be able to tell my story, get it out there, because we have to talk about this. We have to. There's too many people out there that aren't talking about it and are losing their lives. So please, talk about it.
Tracy, I know I speak for everybody. I think I do when I say we're just so grateful for you and that you're here. And I'll never forget when Donna had met you in the hospital. There were some ins and outs there, of course, and Donna was so excited about you. And you know, it was a long process. We're kind of condensing the story today, but it was a better part of a year before that first meeting to here. And then, you know, you're at a very different place as far as life and your faith these days. I'm just amazing. But I'll never forget how excited Donna was about you. You're a part of Donna's legacy that continues to live on, that resurrection hope that is so very real. And we love you, and we're just so grateful for you. That's, hey, yeah. Okay, please stay, Tracy. You're now a part of the team. So yeah, if you don't mind, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we're just going to slide into here as we close. What can we do? I mean, that's a big part of this. We've opened up a big conversation. Hopefully there's going to be more conversations to come out of a day like today. But what can we do as a church, as individuals? You'll see some things on the screen. We'll mention a few of those as we go along here. But I know, Mary, you've done some really deep thinking about what we can do individually out of a conversation like this to ourselves, but also to support others.
Well, talking about mental health. Like, you just got to open your mouth and talk about it. Learn about it. Dispel the myths. When people say, oh, if you have depression, you're going to be violent. It's actually the opposite. They're more likely to have things happen to you. And just be welcoming to all you meet and be kind. It's very simple. Be kind to everyone you meet. I think we never know what's going on in somebody's life, that we just need to be kind. It's just that simple. But being willing to listen to someone's story, because it sometimes takes some patience, is a really good thing. But also being respectful of their privacy. They want to know it's a safe place to talk to you. Being trained in mental health first aid, just like physical first aid, it gives you the basics of what you need to know to make sure you're connecting that person with resources if they need it. And just to understand a little bit about what the different kinds of mental health issues might be. Be a friend and supporter. Ask them how you can be their help. But for sure, things like invite them out for a coffee, have them join you to do some exercise or go for a walk in nature, do things together like crafting or cooking or cleaning or garden work, whatever it is that you might both enjoy together, because it's just that they're not isolated and someone wants to be with them, and that's a good feeling usually for most people. I offer a Facebook page where I put helpful posts and information on mental health, and it's a public page, Brampton Mood Disorders Support Group. And then that lets people know about the meetings we have here, the first and third Tuesday. So it's not every other Tuesday. It's first and third, because someone might show up and I'm not here. And so we have those meetings. We include yoga as part of that because that's a way of managing our stress. It's very chair-like, it's meditation, it's not downward dog. Just so you know. And for the church, first of all, it just offers a safe space, and it's a space for counseling, for meetings, for training and education. So just having the space is a wonderful thing. As a group, we can advocate for services and funding, especially in Peel, where we have great wait lists for psychiatrists and treatment programs, and we really need more specialized youth and children professionals, because who wants to say your child has to wait for a year to get someone to talk to them? It's not a good picture. So offering educational opportunities with our wider community by partnering with our support agencies like Canadian Mental Health Association, that's who's at the back with all of the pamphlets and information, Centre for Mental Health and Addiction, Mood Disorders of Ontario, Family Association for Mental Health Everywhere, and lots of other supports that are available in Peel. But everyone can be an advocate. Just talk about mental health. That's my soapbox for today.
That's awesome. You can get on your soapbox anytime you want. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Mary. Oh my gosh, you can just see the passion here, eh? So maybe some of us have moved with other ideas. Please bring them on. Let's do this. Let's just do something about this. That's part of what this conversation is about, today, opening it up. The Mood Disorders Support Group, first and third Tuesdays. So here would be a challenge. If we had more leaders, we could do it every Tuesday, which also would be a good thing. If you know somebody, our friend came to this, it was one of the things through which God used to save his life. Just would highly recommend encouraging people to get out on Tuesday nights. For now, first and third, until some more leaders step up, and we can do it every week. We have this event happening this fall that we're just starting to plan, and Rolf and his family have brought this forward to do a walk for awareness around mental health called Donna's Walk. It's going to be in October 20th, so you can put it on your calendar. Now, there's a take-home if you want. What do? Put that on your calendar, and as a whole church and the community, we're going to walk, Donna's Walk, awareness for mental health. And then there is just next Sunday, just so you know what that means, training opportunities like Safe Talk. There's training next Sunday afternoon for people who want to know how to talk with folks who are struggling with suicide, and just to enter into those conversations in a safe way. See one of us if you want to be a part of that. We'd love to have you there. Friends, just want to bring things to close, though in some ways we've just opened them up, and that was part of the purpose of today, which is good. My father, Larry, he went through a really serious midlife depression. This is 20 years ago now, and he was hospitalized, the whole deal. It was a year and a half of hell, and we've talked about how this impacts everybody. It impacts those who are suffering from mental health, but it impacts family as well, and we all walk this together. On the other side of this journey, my dad told me years later, actually, he said one of the things that got him through was that every day when he drove up our little hill on Blue Heron Drive in Oshawa where we lived, every day that he drove up that hill, he repeated Philippians 4:13, which says, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Would you say it with me? I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Amen. Amen. Thanks so much to Mary and Rolf and Tracy. Yeah.